The time has come to reveal my top 10 favorite films of 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. This was a tough year to whittle down my list. I have a ton of honorable mentions at the end, but I really take a lot of thought and care into what goes into my top 10 of the year. A very strong year in movies, but let's see what made the cut for myself, for whatever that's worth. Alrighty, let's take a look. At number 10, we have Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. This was the movie about Priscilla Presley, the much younger wife to Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll himself. And this kind of completely destroys whatever illusion that you might have about Elvis being this nice guy. It kind of shows how sketchy their relationship was. She was underage when she met him, and it kind of puts you into her shoes, what it's like living under his shadow. It's a fantastic performance, a very subtle film in a lot of ways. Focusing on those like little microaggressions that she had to suffer through, and it's pretty much the exact opposite of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis film. This one is a much more quiet and does not at all portray him as this sort of larger than life icon. It really humanizes, in a bad way, Elvis, and I thought it was fascinating. So that gets my number 10 pick for destroying what I thought of Elvis. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. Number 9 is another movie about a young girl trying to figure out who she is. This is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, based on the Judy Blume book that is very controversial, and directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, who also directed the fantastic coming-of-age film Edge of 17. This is a very similar wheelhouse to that film about this girl, and she's trying to figure out her identity. Her parents are of different faiths, and she's going through puberty, and it is just a great, great film about growing up, and I highly recommend it. I think Kelly Freeman Craig just knows how to tap into these sort of adolescent mindsets so well. And yeah, check it out. I am not a teenage girl, and yet I connected with it, and you can too. So it's a universal story regardless of who you are. Alrighty, number 8, very different tone from the last film. This is called Holy Spider. This is a film from Iran, and it is basically about a serial killer who is killing promiscuous women, prostitutes, and such. In Iran, women just have less rights, and it's almost like he's getting away with the murders because people turn a blind eye to it because of who he's killing. And it's up to this female investigative reporter in this very male-dominated society to try to crack down on the crime. This is a very, very brutal film. I would not suggest it to the faint of heart, but it is a fascinating look at this different culture and some of the challenges that women are facing, and it's also a very chilling depiction of a serial killer for sure. I haven't felt this uncomfortable about like a film about a killer since probably The Act of Killing, which was a documentary. This is not a documentary, but it has a level of realism to it. It's unflinching, and I highly recommend it if you have the stomach for it. It is a very strong film, but it's one that will leave an impact with you. Number 7 is a film called Broker. This is from a South Korean filmmaker named Koreda. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. He also has another film that came out later this year that I missed called Monster that everyone said was amazing, so I'll have to check that one out whenever or wherever it releases. But this one is basically about this little baby that is put up for adoption, or not adoption, just sort of left behind, and the surrogate family that surrounds the baby as they're putting the baby on the black market, basically. It's a lot more heartwarming than you would think based on that premise, and it will make you fall in love with black market baby peddlers somehow. It's such a good movie, very emotional, very quiet and delicate, like all of his other films. So I highly recommend Broker, and I cannot wait to check out Monster at some point this year. All right, at number 6, going a lot bigger, we are having Godzilla Minus One in the sixth place slot. This was a huge surprise to me. Godzilla, he's kind of worn out his welcome recently. Especially after Godzilla versus Kong was just such a disappointment. But this is a Japanese film, and it's set in World War II, bringing it back to Godzilla's roots. And it is like Oppenheimer meets Jaws. It is so well done. It follows this kamikaze pilot who did not kamikaze himself, and he's racked with guilt as he sees the destruction to his country, and he feels like he didn't do anything to try to help people. And Godzilla is like a metaphor for that, atomic bomb and the force of nature. And he has a chance to redeem himself by helping to take down this monster. The music is fantastic. The special effects, considering the budget, look better than all the big budget Godzilla movies. It is such a great film, also featuring a sort of found family plot line, just like Broker. And Godzilla is just so much fun. The action scenes are amazing. This is a must-watch monster movie. I think it is the best Godzilla movie ever made, for whatever that is worth. Even better than the first one. I said it. All right, at number 5 is Barbie, one half of the phenomenon known as Barbenheimer. And this movie completely blew me away as well. Greta Gerwig, she has made a lot of films, but on a smaller scale, Little Women and Lady Bird, these sort of like small scale type movies. I didn't know she could handle a big comedy like this. I didn't know what to expect, really. But what I got was a movie that should not exist. Barbie is a toy, but this movie says so much about the current state of relationships between men and women in the world. It's incredible, the production design, the songs, there's comedy, there's drama. America Ferrera's speech about what it's like being a woman in the world is empowering. When I saw it in a theater, people cheered afterwards. They clapped. It is just a phenomenon of a film, and I think that young girls are going to be watching Barbie growing up, and it's going to be a deep film for them. So many movies hitting theaters that are successes are like these vacuous films and throwaway movies that you forget about instantly. This is a movie that is so much greater than what its IP is. It uses Barbie as a springboard for fantastic filmmaking and big ideas, thought-provoking, and you would never think that. So if you're dissuaded, the fact that it's a Barbie film and you're a grown man like myself, don't be discouraged. This is a fantastic movie, one of the best of the year, and just mind-blowingly good considering it's a Barbie movie. Next up, we have Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the latest Martin Scorsese movie. A man in his 80s, and yet he's still making these epic crime films. This is based on the excellent book by David Grann. It's about these Native Americans who become millionaires. It was very rare in that time. But this one tribe managed to land on oil, and of course, all the white people around them want to literally murder them to get the oil money. And the sort of leader of this town who has everybody under his thumb is played by Robert De Niro, and he manipulates, I believe, his nephew, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, to try to marry him off to one of the Native Americans to get their money. And it is just such an engrossing film. Everything about it is epic. The scale of it, the drama of it, the cinematography. It's very like cold and calculating when they show the murders. It doesn't feel like overly glamorous. It's like this is the way it really happened. And just the performances top down. It's thought-provoking. It's chilling. It's weirdly funny in a lot of places. It's the whole package. It's my number 4 movie of the year. You have to see it. Don't be discouraged the fact that it's 3.5 hours long. It is well worth it, and it will go by fast. Next up is a movie called Blackberry that's sort of, I don't know, it's underrated, I would say. It's weird that AMC, not the movie theater chain, but the Film Channel, AMC, they re-released this film as a mini series, and I did not watch that yet. I don't know how I feel about that, but this movie is excellent. It's sort of like taking the template of a social network type movie, but it's examining the Blackberry phone. That sort of before the iPhone, there was the Blackberry basically, and it shows the rise and fall of this device and sort of all the people behind it, including the real nerd people who made it happen, and how once it became successful, it completely changed the people in charge. It's a fascinating look at this little device that you might have heard of once upon a time, and it is just really funny, really dramatic, and I loved it. So definitely check out Blackberry, especially if you like movies like The Social Network. All right, next up is a movie called Past Lives. This is another very delicate drama that is just so emotional, so powerful. It's about this young woman who grew up in Korea, and she formed a bond with this guy there, and they were kind of had the bubbling feelings of love once upon a time, but then her family moves to America, and they lose contact, basically. Then all these years later, she's married to this other, like, Jewish guy in New York, and she's living life. And what do you know? Through social networking, she reconnects with her old childhood friend. And what do you know? They start to develop a romantic feelings again. And he understands her past life, right? There's a level of her life that her current husband will never really know or understand growing up in Korea that he does. And so she's torn. It's this love triangle film, but it is just so well done and well acted and emotionally devastating. And I thought it was fantastic. Highly recommended. And then my number one movie of the year is Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. This is a holiday-themed film, actually, and it's about this cantankerous English professor, and he has to look after all of the kids who are the holdovers, who have no place to go for holiday break. And he is so funny in the movie. He's sort of like a Scrooge-like character who, he loves to hold kids to a high standard and maybe an unrealistic standard, and he is just, his life is not going very well. He's this off-putting guy, but deep down, he's desperate for connection. And so are all these people. It's sort of like this found misfits. I love movies about that. You look at Broker, you look at Godzilla Minus One, and now The Holdovers. Movies about people that are not a part of each other's social circles. You wouldn't think that they would match together, but they do. I love these found family narratives, and this is one of the best ones you'll ever see. Also, shout out in this movie, for about 5 seconds, they have a shot inside a movie theater lobby, and that lobby is the Somerville Theater in Somerville, Massachusetts, where I volunteer for IFF Boston every year. So that was super cool to see. And this is such a heartwarming movie. If you watch this and feel nothing, I feel bad for you, because this is just one of the best movies of the year, and I can watch it over and over again. So I look forward to revisiting this frequently. I love hanging out with these people, and I love it. So it's my number one. So there you go. I hope you liked my top 10. Now it's time for some honorable mentions. I'm just going to rapid fire go through these. But at one point, all of these I considered for my top 10 list. So there's a lot here, but it was a great year in film. So let's take a look at that. So we have Beau is Afraid. That is the Ari Aster movie that is like a nightmare caught on film. Joaquin Phoenix is so fantastic in it, and it is a very strange film, but a very thought-provoking one. And it's one of the most daring out there films this year. So The Big Swing, I have to give it an honorable mention. Then Birth, Rebirth, I mentioned that in my superlatives list. That is sort of like a Frankenstein type story. And I really enjoyed that one. Then we have this movie called Close, which is another drama about a young boy and dealing through various life traumas. It is pretty much what you would expect from a foreign drama that is really affecting. Then we have The Color Purple. This is the musical adaptation of the Alice Walker novel that made me cry, so I have to give it an honorable mention. Then we have Creed 3. Again, great action, great drama. It's just I love this series. Creed 2 wasn't that great, but Creed 1 and Creed 3 are great sports boxing movies. Then we have Dream Scenario. This is the A24 comedy, one of Nicolas Cage's best performances as a man that will haunt your dreams, but not in a creepy way, just in a weird way. Then we have Dreamin' Wild. This is about two brothers, the true story. They were sort of one-hit wonders back in the day, and then life caught up with them, and they're rediscovered by online magazines, and they want them to reunite. But in all those years since they recorded when they were kids, life has changed, and it brings up all sorts of these new old wounds. It's a fantastic, quiet movie that should have been more watched by people. Really great one. Dumb Money. This is about the GameStop debacle in the stock market, where they sort of united as a front and bought tons of GameStop stock. It was like a true David and Goliath story, and it covers it from all these different angles. I thought it was a really fascinating film. Then we have this sort of neo-noir movie, Eileen, which was also really cool. We have Fallen Leaves, which is sort of a Wes Anderson-y type movie from Norway or Finland. It's like Wes Anderson if he wasn't as whimsical, I would say. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, one of the best comic book movies of the year. And it's a fitting end to James Gunn's tenure with these characters. I thought it was great. Rocket Raccoon, again, makes me cry. Then we have Infinity Pool, a really great horror film from David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg. Really cool horror movie about rich people doing some sketchy things. Then we have John Wick 4, some of the greatest action scenes you'll ever see, ever. Then we have May December, Todd Haynes drama with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. Need I say more? It's a great film. Then we have the movie I've been championing all year, Megan. It's a guilty pleasure maybe for me, but I love this movie. I can't wait for Megan 2. Killer Robot Dancing Dolls. I gotta love it. Then we have Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. This was another Frankenstein-styled story about a grown woman who is fitted with the brain of a child, and she's sort of learning about life in this existential journey. It's very weird, but very good. Then we have The Royal Hotel. It's sort of a thriller about a young girl operating a hotel in the middle of nowhere, Australia, and all the creepy men that threaten her, and it is very intense. And then finally, one of the scariest movies of the year, Talk to Me. This is another A24 horror movie where people are sort of communicating with dead spirits and bad things happen, and is very good. So those are all my honorable mentions this year. All of them had a chance to crack into the top 10 at one point. I hope you enjoyed my top 10 of the year list and all my honorable mentions. If I missed anything that you loved, let me know. I know I wasn't a huge fan of Oppenheimer. It is what it is. I recognize it as an achievement, but it wasn't my thing. But if there were any other ones that you thought I missed out on, let me know, and I look forward to whatever 2024 has in store. Catch you next year.